Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Embarrassing Stories. We've gone a bit purple with the lighting today. First up we have TIFU by taking Ambien and unleashing my cowboy alter ego, Old Samba Hips. By Jar of Nightmares, I'll bet it was after that. This happened many years ago. I was just out of college and had been suffering from insomnia for most of my life. I was trying to get a hold on it before graduate school, so I spoke to my doctor. He was rather unhelpful and just threw different sleep medications at me. At the time, I did not realize that there are vastly more effective treatments for insomnia, like a mallet to the head. I'm not a doctor. So, not knowing much about it, I started a course of Ambien. This stuff worked because it put my butt to sleep. Also my ass. I think we're going to start cursing again. The problem was, sometimes when I woke up, it was like emerging from a decades-long coma. I would have no clue who or where I was, or how long I'd been asleep. Sometimes I'd wake up in different places in my apartment. Oh my. One time I woke up in bed with no sheets on me, completely nude, with chocolate frosting and yellow cake crumbs smeared across my chest. Well, at least you were having fun. I did not have any cake in the apartment. Another time, I woke up and found an unopened box of Monster energy drinks in my pantry. I have never consumed energy drinks ever. I think your id is trying to tell you something. My friends began joking about riding the purple walrus. If you go to certain websites, I believe there is a sex toy you can buy like that. Which is something I was definitely doing because my adventures were becoming more and more bizarre. I somehow began a relationship with a woman who was miles out of my league. And hey man, you miss every shot you don't take. And within a few weeks, she was sleeping over at my place on Friday nights. This is where the real trouble began. At first I stopped taking Ambien on those nights so I could stay up and watch movies with her, and so I wouldn't sleep in too long the next day. I liked waking up and making her breakfast, but as the weeks wore on, I began to feel more worn out. So I let her know about my situation, and she said she was fine with me taking the pills. Then she started reporting to me some of the funny things I do in my sleep. Allegedly, I once dropped a full-force locker room man fart right next to her and then said, "Could you take that to table 7? It made sense to me because I had been a server all through college. Another time, I had an entire conversation with her in the dark about how my apartment building was built on an Indian burial ground, and how the spirits would come up through the shower drain and the toilet and make a mess of my place at night. That explains the cake. I'd occasionally scream in fear for no reason. Quote movies like, "There's a snake in my boots," and make all kinds of frivolous accusations like my girlfriend had gone into my work email and sent threatening crossword puzzles to my clients. We got into a fight one time because she made her mother's famous lasagna recipe for us, and I walked to the refrigerator in the middle of the night, took the leftovers out, and dumped them on the floor. She said my subconscious actions implied I didn't really like her cooking and was lying to her about it. Tensions rose as she began sleeping over more and seeing more of my strange behavior. I gave her a mangled version of King Theoden's speech from Rohirrim, whilst asleep on the couch during a movie, then tried to get up and charge, but fell on the floor, shouting, "Forth there, Onlingas!" I wish I could say this was the end of it and I quit Ambien, but I was actually feeling more refreshed and getting better sleep than I ever had. So against my girlfriend's wishes, I continued taking it. The last straw for her was one night when I sat up straight in bed, donned a ridiculously cartoonish Texan accent, and told her, You can read it on my lips. They call me Old Samba Hips." Then performed a few ludicrous hip thrusts and dance moves. She should have been grateful for the entertainment, quite frankly. Things went downhill shortly thereafter because I got off the medication and went back to sleeping like shit, which affected my mood and my work. We grew apart and broke up within 2 months. It's been over a decade, and my buddies still call me old Samba Hips. Well, I'm certainly sorry to hear the relationship ended, but perhaps it was for the best in the end. Story number 2 is TIFU by being experienced in latte art by Botan Booty. I, 18 female, lied and told an employer that I am experienced in latte art. I've been unemployed for 2.5 months, which is a story for another time. I've been desperate for a new job, so I applied for a server position at a new cafe. I applied I think a month ago, but I literally heard nothing back. I applied on Indeed, and the status was employer is viewing applications. I wonder if they were actually reading them, though. Normally, I call after I apply, but when I initially applied, they didn't have a business number. So I check again yesterday, and they have one. A lady picked up the call, and I asked her about the server position. She said she's looking for experienced servers. I've never worked at a cafe, and so she said she can't hire me. I asked for other positions. She said a barista's position. I've worked at a Starbucks for the past 10 months, and I'm pretty dedicated to working with coffee. So I tell her, yeah, I have experience. She asked if I have experience with latte art. I said, yeah. I really don't. It was encouraged to practice and waste our resources at the Starbucks when it's so, but I never did because to me that's not that important. The taste and quality of the coffee should come before whether or not it looks pretty for like 10 seconds. The lady told me to come in. The place is almost ready to open for the first time. So I write my info and start. Before this, for the last 30 minutes I crammed as much info on latte art as I could. So when I get there I basically know the basics. When I got behind the counter, she had the typical barista equipment. The equipment my Starbucks didn't have, so I was already screwed. I had no idea how to use the grinder or the espresso machine. To at least look like I know what I'm doing, I asked her about the other coffee-based drinks. She said cappuccinos, flat whites, espressos. Yeah, I make those with Starbucks equipment. That didn't matter then. What mattered was learning how to do latte art in 3 tries. Her first red flag should have been the lack of knowledge I've had with equipment. The coffee-to-milk ratio, how long I aerate the milk and steam the milk is so important. So I had to manually figure out these things. First try, I hardly got any foam. The milk pitcher was too small. The second try, some foam, but my timing was wrong. The third try, I got too much foam. That kind of bounces out then. I'm out of the ball game already, but one last time wouldn't hurt. My hands were shaking. She knows that I don't know latte art, so I try again. It was almost perfect, but I didn't know how to actually make a heart. She told me she needs someone really experienced in latte art. Well, I haven't worked at a Starbucks in 2.5 months. I was rusty. She said she couldn't train anyone because opening was around the corner. Also, she doesn't know how to do it herself, I'd wager. Which is honestly a stupid reason in my opinion. Despite actually knowing what I'm doing, I didn't get the job because I don't know latte art. I mean, it's so weird people are still into that these days. Get the coffee, shove it in your face, job done. I told her to let me know if she needs another barista. She said, okay, you will never hear from her again. Story 3. TIFU by washing my salt grinder. I had a busy day ahead, but wanted to make a decent meal for dinner. So I decided to prep a slow cooker stew with a gammon joint for dinner, so I wouldn't have to spend much time in the kitchen. Nice. I'd soaked the gammon ahead of time, and it occurred to me that I wouldn't have to salt the stew due to the saltiness of the gammon. So I took the opportunity to wash the salt grinder as it was nearly empty anyway. Those things take a while to dry out, so I left it on the side. Of course, you need a good carb with a meat stew, so I decided to serve mashed potato, the best of potatoes. except chips. And potato chips. And roast potatoes. I like potatoes. But to save time cooking, I bought pre-made mash, also acceptable in a pinch. The thing is, I have a dairy allergy, and it's hard to find pre-made mash without added cream or butter. So I made instant mash for myself. My partner refuses to eat it, but I don't mind, and it's literally just dried potato with no additives, so I can use dairy-free stuff to make it creamy and nice. A little bit of garlic into instant mash works wonders. As we're eating dinner, I felt something crunch, and I spat it out. Tiny chip of something. Maybe it's a bone fragment, one of those potato bones. But then I felt another. I looked closely, and it sparkled. Oh, shit, is that glass? Honey, I'm gonna ask you to stop eating. There's something in this that might be glass. What shit? Being a hungry man, he went and made a sandwich, while I tried to figure out where these glass chips came from. After examining everything, down to sieving the rest of the powdered potato to check for fragments, it suddenly occurred to me, the salt grinder. I had added a sprinkle of unground sea salt crystals to my potato. Tentatively, I picked up a sparkly piece of glass and licked it. Definitely salt. Oh, damn it. I told my guy who had already eaten his sandwich, and we resumed eating. Having eaten the sandwich, though, he didn't finish the rest of the stew, quitter. He left the unfinished plate on the table. While we were out of the room, the cat took the opportunity to indulge. Later that night, as we were watching a film to relax, the cat jumped up on the arm of the sofa and popped a horrendous fart right in my face. Now, I have seen a picture of the offending kitty. They're very, very adorable, and that last part is, quite frankly, it strains credulity. A face that adorable, I don't think it's going to be farting in anyone's face. Story number 4. TIFU got denied at an airport for a trip we planned for holiday, by Mako-san. Story number 4 today is TIFU got denied at airport for a trip we planned for holiday, by Mako-san. My wife has a long-time wish to visit Taeju in Korea. Told me several times, but postponed always as I did not have time from work. We finally decided to plan a trip for 5 days starting today, which was a Saturday. Tickets have been bought, hotels have been booked, all good. We do not live in Korea, so it will be a trip abroad. And for context, my wife and I are holding different passports. Visiting Korea is visa-free to me for up to 90 days, at least on paper, while it requires a lot of documents from her. But if you only visit Taeju Island, only the island is visa-free for her too. She told me she needs to fill in an online arrival card 3 days prior and all will be done. I checked for myself very thoroughly, as I knew I did not need a visa, and after a Google search and doing a skim reading the consulate's paper there, okay, still visa-free, and need to fill in an online form 3 days prior. So we arrived at 3 a.m. at the airport, 2.5 hours prior to the flight, went straight up to checking, waited about 20 minutes in the queue. When it was our turn, they quickly gave the boarding card to my wife, but mine stalled there. They called several people, and those people asked me to complete an online application. I thought it was the e-arrival card that we have filled, but no, it's something you need to do if you're from a visa-free country. So they normally require the visa from her, difficult to get, but only if it's to go to that island it's visa-free. On the other hand, they do not require a visa from me to visit all of Korea. Wherever I want to visit there, but even visit this island, I need to complete the entry application like an e-visa. Crap. I thought it's visa-free, I wouldn't need to enter with a passport. We left the counter, sat on the floor, I switched on my laptop, did this application in like 10 minutes, paid $10, and the result page said, "Your application status is under assessment." The airline officer told me it's likely to be approved the next day, not now. So everything had gone to garbage. I suggested my wife to take the flight herself, and I joined the next day once I got this paper She said no. Unbelievable that we had to return home. I felt so ashamed. It could have happened to anybody. 5 a.m. We arrived back home. Just get back on my laptop to check the details, and my application was approved already. It cost me $1,000 and a crap ton of tension with my wife. I still can't understand how I didn't bother to go through the details about requirements when I got the tickets. Hey, look at it this way. It's a mistake you're only going to make once. No, you know. And the fifth and final story today is to AFU by breaking into a school and getting surrounded by cops. It was 1989, and I'd just turned 13. How old was I in 1989? Let me see. I would have been 7 or 8, depending when in the year it was. I grew up 1 block over from my elementary school, playing in its recess park almost every day. It was a great place to play, with monkey bars in cubes, a half globe, and the straight ones where I broke my arm in 3rd grade. There was a tall but scorching metal slide you could fry eggs on in the summer. We did. This is how you know it was the 80s, they could still afford eggs. As well as a shorter one for little kids, where we could flip over the bar and slam our feet with a tremendous boom on the way down. Near the building, there were several small trees, easily scaled and perfect for reading in. By the time I was 13, I'd outgrown everything but the swings, the trees, and occasionally the top of the globe. My best friend Liz and I were there any time she came over. We spent hours swinging side by side, talking about books, making up wild stories, giggling like loons about it all. Boys were still more on the cootie side of things. Oh, we always are. But we giggled about them too. Liz and I had a bond that somehow reflected hilarity at each other. From the moment we met, we giggled. We spent every minute together on some kind of lunatic dopamine high, howling at the ridiculousness of the world. 13 was the best damn year of my life. Oh, but I digress. I mean, life isn't over yet. Hopefully better days to come. One summer afternoon, we were in the trees near the side of the building. My 7-year-old brother Mikey had tagged along carrying our kitten Sprite. A couple of hours in, Liz climbed down to run to my house to pee. I stayed in my tree, reading and keeping an eye on Mike and the kitten. After a while, I realized Liz should have been back by now if she only needed to pee. I jumped down and collected my wards to go check on her. As we strolled past the school's main doors, I glanced inside to see Liz grinning out at me like a maniac jack-o'-lantern. Mikey and I were delighted, and I demanded through the glass to know how she'd gotten in there. She yelled that she'd found the door ajar near the trees where we'd been, and to go back around. I thought that was silly when she could just open the door for us. I should have listened to her. Opening the front door tripped a silent alarm. We had no idea. I was excited at the prospect of seeing my old school again. And Mikey, who was just about to start 2nd grade, was excited to see the big kids part of the building. So we set out on an enthusiastic tour. I showed Liz the little kid halls, the cafeteria, the music room, the art room. We peered glumly through locked library doors, and I showed them the 5th grade classroom I was in when the Challenger exploded. We knew we shouldn't be in there, but we were respectful and didn't touch anything, not even the music room recorders Mike wanted to toot on. Tour concluded, we headed back toward the doors. As we approached them, we saw a swarm of cop cars outside. Pikachu Face wouldn't come along for a while, but I think that about covers it. We panicked and ran for the door at the end on the little kid hall. Cops. We ran to 2 other doors before realizing the entire building was surrounded and we were cooked. Abashed, but not really frightened. Shooting kids was unheard of then, at least in the privilege of our color. We slumped back to the front doors to give ourselves up. We opened them to find the entire drop-off zone full of cop cars, with officers crouched behind every door, guns drawn on 3 kids, and a bedraggled kitten like we were the Frightful Four. Must have been a slow day at the station, then. That took us aback. They told us to show our hands. So we did. My baby brother raising Sprite in one clutched hand. Some officers came forward and hustled us off to the side, while the rest kept their guns on the doors. They asked repeatedly if there was anyone else in the building, and went inside for a sweep after we swore there wasn't. The superintendent showed up at some point, and we had to explain what we were doing and how we got into him as well as the cops. Once it was established that the building was clear and we'd done no damage, we were thoroughly lectured by both. The sup stressed how he could press charges but wouldn't, this time. For what? Walking in through an open door? The cops stressed that what we'd done was breaking and entering, just entering, and was a good way to get hurt. And then we all got a ride home in police cars, Liz to her house, me, Mike, and Sprite to ours. Our escort whooped the siren for my brother. My parents were exasperated, but we didn't get in trouble. Liz got grounded for 2 weeks and had to write, "I will never get in trouble with the police again," 500 times with her mother. Wonder how that worked out. It's kind of a depressing story now, given how different the police response would be today. But back then, the looks on those cops' faces when Mikey raised that kitten in one trembling fist were worth their weight in gold. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Let's see now. I think I have a birthday shout out to do. Let me check. I think it was for the 5th, wasn't it? Yeah, just make sure to put this up on that day. Oh, thank you very much for watching today's video, and big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Now, we do have a little birthday shout out. This one goes to Mama Wolf. Mama Wolf's birthday is today. Your daughter wisely did not say your age in case you get in trouble. I'm going to assume you are 21 years old, and we all wish you a very happy and fun birthday. And noted, as I was ordered, this is not a paranormal or scary story video, because I'm a good boy and I do as I'm told. I'm not a good boy, but I do sometimes do as I'm told. Now, I hope you have a great day, and I hope your family is taking time to spoil you as you very much and richly deserve. And before we go, I'd like to sing Happy Birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mama Wolf. Happy birthday to you. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourself.